My name is Zabibu Kabalika. I'm originally from Tanzania. Tanzania is in East Africa. I did my MSc here at the University of Glasgow, and the program is Conservation Management of African Ecosystems. So in short term, it's called the CMAE. So in my future references, I'll be referring to it CMAE. So the program is intended for ecologists mostly, and even non-ecologists who are interested in biological sciences and researchers. I did that 7 years ago. 2016 is when I did my master's here, and I can say it was a motivation for me to do my PhD as well, because I started my project during my master's, and it kind of ended up not finished, so giving me a room to take on for my PhD studies. Well, the fact that this was meant for ecologists and non-ecologists who are interested in biological sciences, that was like the biggest motivation. And another thing was the fact that University of Glasgow researchers, we know them in Tanzania, so they do a lot of research work in Tanzania. So it felt like going to University of Glasgow, doing CMAE, it's gonna feel like dealing with people who know where I come from, and it proved correct, because once I got here and trying to explain to people what I want to work on, you know, people know Tanzania here, most researchers, they know Tanzania, so they will tell, no, this is not possible for what you want to do, but you can do this instead. Why? Because they know how it is. So that was like the two main points. The fact that it's designed for ecologists, and there is this big community of researchers from University of Glasgow working in Tanzania. Well, definitely, absolutely. It's a great program. I think even people who are doing medical sciences, I would recommend it to them, because it's kind of a program that is packed with everything. So mostly they teach you how to solve different scientific problems. So it doesn't matter your background, even if you are from social science, they will show you how you can solve the problems of social sciences. So it's really a great program for anyone who is really interested in solving different problems. Well, tough question. I think for people who have been UK-based educated, they might find it easy, because as a PhD student now, I do help in demonstrating. I see how undergrad students are being taught. But the system I was raised in Tanzania is very different, because it's like you expect a teacher to give you everything, and the last thing you do is get your hand out, memorize it, and sit for an exam. So I see it's a bit different here. But so once I got here, from undergrad to postgrad, it was a nightmare. So I got here and they taught us first time. I didn't understand what they were saying. And in my mind, I was, oh, it's fine, I will learn near the exam. And then the next time, they brought more things. And I'm like, oh, and to be able to do this, so you need to have understood the previous one. It's much more practical oriented. You need to do things by yourself. So that's when I was, oh, okay, and there are deadlines, assignments, so that's when I had to get everything together. So it was kind of a bit difficult, to be honest, but maybe it's because of the system. I was transiting from Tanzanian education to UK-based education, but for me it was a little bit difficult. I applied for a scholarship that was specific for Tanzanians. That is called Karim J. Jivanje Scholarship, and I got it. So, and it's available for Tanzanians only. But for Tanzanians, there is this Karim J. Jivanje Scholarship that covers everything. It's a full scholarship, covers tuition, health insurance, visa, and everything else. The reason I pursued my PhD is that I was enthusiastic with the project I started doing in my master's. And the reason I was enthusiastic with it is because it was a new thing and it was going to solve this ecological problem, which I have proven right. Yes, it was applying these isotopes to start movement in diet. So what you do is just you take a hair from an animal and then you can tell where this animal has been roughly or what this animal has been eating over time. So I had started it during my master's and I thought it was something that really need to be taken forward. And if I do PhD on it, I will get expertise and I can share whatever I have with people. Because personally, that was the first time I hear the term isotopes. I was like, what? I did this in my high school chemistry. So how is isotope related to ecology? So that was a new term, and I thought it's a good thing to pursue and share it with other people, which I think I've done in a big part. I've done it. I've presented to different conferences, and this is still a hot news. I did masters. I built this community. I got to engage with this community of researchers working in Tanzania, and I couldn't find any better place to take on with advancing my skills other than University of Glasgow. Yeah, my PhD is on movement and diet of migratory ungulates, and so what I do is to use intrinsic markers, which is a non-invasive way of getting history of an animal, be it on movement or diet. So what I've been doing is segmenting tail hairs of wildebeest to get to this history of feeding, as well as history of movement using their tail hairs. So I've been testing different theories. For example, one of the things that I've tested is can we differentiate resident and migrant animal using their tail hairs? So this is like a work in progress. I have developed a key that if you take a tail hair, analyze it for isotope, then you can tell if it's a resident or a migrant by going through these steps. So this work hopefully will be out soon in publication. Another thing that I have done on my PhD is to assess the diet overlap between sympatric species. That might be a difficult term, but these are animals that occur together. They share their home range. So we have wildebeest and zebra living together, moving across the Serengeti ecosystem. So what we weren't sure is when do their diet overlap or when do their diet is separated. So I have explored that in my PhD. The species like wildebeest, it's the largest species across the whole Serengeti ecosystem. If you combine any other ungulates, wildebeest still their number is higher than all the rest combined. And this species has been growing exponentially over time. It's been growing since recovering from rinderpest outbreak late in 19th century. So it's been growing. So we don't know. The conservation status is not least concern, but we see these climate change. We see increased human activities. We see eruption of diseases. Currently, wildebeest don't get, there are no more much diseases that have been reported to affect the species, but we don't know if it's going to be like that with all these factors changing. That's why it's important to know how they move, what they eat, how they interact with other species, and that will help to inform us on what are the possible management actions that we need to take to make sure this species survive, because it's one of the largest ungulate migration in the world, and we don't want to see that collapse as well. We have seen lots of migrations collapsing around the world, and we don't want that to happen to wildebeests. So that's why we need to get to know as much as we can about this species to be sure we conserve it properly. Well, excellent question. The PGT to PGR. First of all, PGR is lonely kind of journey. You got your admission, you got your funding, you're so excited. From PGT, you had friends, you had people, you sit together in the class and you just ask, there is a teacher there telling you how to do things, what to do. But with your PGR, it's just you and your supervisor. So your supervisor really expects you to be on the driving seat of your project. And you still have ideas from PGT, like, okay, I will ask you this, I'll ask that. But really, your supervisors are there to kind of, just how the baby. You hold the baby, and then they expect, they're moving their hands slowly until they're out of it. So it was not very difficult, but it's kind of very different because you are given the office, this is your desk, you have office mates, but everyone is doing something different. So it's just really you and your supervisor who are working on the same thing. Everyone else is working on something different. It gives you freedom and power to make a decision, to think on where you want to take your project, but feels kind of lonely because even when things get hard, for example, your supervisor will tell you, okay, you want to do this, do it. So you don't have anybody to ask, hey, how do we do this, But in PGT, it's like the assignment is the same for everyone, and you can ask, oh, how do we go about this? So the PGR is a little bit challenging, but also fascinating to do because you feel like you are really becoming an independent researcher. Well, for example, if I talk about my country in Tanzania, being a woman in conservation field is a little bit challenging because you'll constantly need to be in the field, and this is real, the facilities to support women's need in the field are really very poor. So that would be the biggest challenge. And as a PhD graduate, you are expected to help, to be involved in some decision making. So I think that would be another challenge, as a woman, to get to sit in panels, expressing your views, and probably woman at a relatively young age. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge to make yourself heard and people agree, or to convince people what you're saying could work. In my career as a parent, it's going to be another challenge because even right now I can see it. I will need to take care of my son, same time working. So sometimes you need to be in the field, sometimes you need to be in the lab, sometimes you need to go to conferences, So we'll need to kind of forego some things because it's not, you don't want to do them, but the environment limits you. So I can say from my perspective, the research facilities, they're excellent from expertise as well as equipment you get that you need for your research. The department I am in, it's very friendly. We sometimes speak Kiswahili. Kiswahili is a local language in Tanzania. Almost everyone speaks Swahili. So these researchers from my department, they have been in Tanzania for so long, they have picked up some language. So you can sometimes in discussions, you can drop in a Swahili word and they understand. So it's very friendly culture of the university. and also the fact that there is enough expertise on what I was working on. The ecologist people, there are like lots of people who are working on ecology, on biology, statisticians, so it's like you get everything in one plate. That was like something I really enjoyed. Also the infrastructures, like, you know, fancy, the library and classrooms, everything. At first it was challenging when I started my master's. It was very challenging. You come to the whole new environment, you don't know anyone, you don't know what to expect. But after staying in Glasgow for some time, making friends, meeting people, now Glasgow feels more like my home.